Welcome back to Floss Law. Normally we keep these videos in dealing with real estate investment. Today I want to talk about something that deals with real estate investment in an indirect way. Most of us go towards or attracted to real estate as an investment source because we're hoping to build wealth, build wealth for our families, and build wealth long term, both for ourselves and for our families. And there's some changes happening that you need to be aware of. It is significant because it undoes about 20 years of estate planning, and really makes us have to go back and re-examine how we're going to approach long-term estate planning and wealth building. What I'm talking about is the Secure Act. Secure Act stands for Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement Act. I had to read that because I've looked at it about 10 times now and I still can't remember what the words are. I think they just wanted to have the cutesy name of Secure Act and just threw a bunch of words together. That's what it looks like to me. The Secure Act passed in the House back in May at 417 to 3, so almost unanimous. It's now up in the Senate. It would have already passed the Senate, however, it's being held up by Ted Cruz. He wants to have a provision in there so that your 529 plan, if you don't have one, a 529 plan is it's like it functions like a retirement account, but it's for your children's college education. So you put money in there every month. The money's invested. That money, or it could act as a savings account, and you use that 529 plan when your child goes to college to pay for tuition, books, all that kind of thing. He wants that to be amended so that children that are being homeschooled can use the 529 plan for homeschooling costs. So that's the big delay right now. Otherwise, we already would have gone through. Because that's the only issue, I expect this to get passed at some point this summer. So what's the Secure Act? The Secure Act is going to change the way we look and treat your estate plan, and more specifically, your IRA and your 401k. For the last 20 years now, there's been an idea of a stretch IRA. A stretch IRA isn't a different IRA, it's just your normal IRA. The stretch IRA means when you pass, your spouse will, most of the time, you leave it to your spouse. And whenever you have a 401k or IRA, you should always go back and every few years review who your beneficiary is. The will or whatever you have doesn't dictate that. Your company that has your IRA or 401k has a beneficiary form that will dictate who's going to receive the benefit of that account. So you always want to make sure you're updating that form so that it doesn't get out of date and we don't have to deal with the situation where the wrong person's listed on there, or a previous spouse or whoever you don't want to have on there. So most of the time we have a spouse on there, the spouse is going to inherit it, it's not a problem. The problem comes in when that surviving spouse now passes. That 401k or IRA is going to go to your heir, whoever you're going to leave it to, son or daughter, if you don't have a child, someone else. Secure Act is going to change the way we treat that. In the past, we had a stretch IRA, meaning when the non-spouse inherits it, so your son, your daughter, whomever, they could take that 401k IRA and stretch it out over the course of their lifetime and use it for their retirement. So you could have a son or daughter inherit your IRA when you pass. We'll have to take, a minimum distribution out every year, but the bulk of it is going to continue to get reinvested so that they have the benefit of another 10, 20, 30, 40 years of investing that retirement account so that when they go to retire, they're going to have a massive, hopefully massive retirement account so they'll be able to live comfortably. So we're stretching it out over the course of their lifetime. It's what I call a stretch IRA. So we just keep it going. We keep the investment going. We keep the retirement account going for their lifetime, and now they get to use it. It was a great tool, and if you've sat down with an estate planning attorney for the last 20 years, they would have advised you about the benefit of your heirs inheriting your 401k and IRA and stretching it out. So, and especially with those IRAs. So now what's going to happen? Now the Secure Act is going to flip that around. And what's really happening is the government wants to create more taxable events and prevent families holding on to wealth for a longer period of time. So the government is trying to prevent families keeping money unavailable for taxation for a very, very long period of time. Because you're talking about a person having a retirement account for their lifetime, them passing, and then keeping it for the child's retirement. So that could be for a very long period of time. They don't want that money unavailable for taxation, essentially is what it comes down to be. So they're going to change it once this gets passed. They're going to change it so when a non-spouse inherits this IRA, they have to make a full distribution within 10 years. They can't keep it going until their retirement age. It's going to remove any of the minimum or maximum distributions, and I'll explain that in a second. But essentially, within that 10-year period, they have to make the distribution of the amount of money they have in that retirement account to the non-spouse beneficiary. Causes lots of problems. One being, if your son or daughter that's inheriting this money, if they're already in a pretty high tax bracket, this is going to push them even higher. So you could be in a situation where them inheriting that money, depending on their tax bracket and depending on what state they're in, they could be paying a third of it in taxes. So you were hoping they were going to get the full benefit. Now a third of that money is going to go towards the federal government and the state, depending on what state you're in. It's a huge departure from everything we've been telling clients for the last 20 years. In order to kind of help with this, in their eyes, they're giving you flexibility about how to distribute over the course of that 10 years. So you could, if you had $1 million IRA, you could take $100,000 a year every year for 10 years. The issue with that, again, is if you now have $100,000 of additional income that's going to put you in a higher tax bracket and paying higher taxes all of those 10 years. It also affects people who have, if you have children that are going to school and you need to get state aid, federal aid for them going to college, law school, medical school, whatever. That money is not going to count on your income. So when you try to fill out those FAFSA forms, it may prevent you from getting the aid that you need for your kid to go to college. Some of your plans may be set up with generation skipping. So you could have the son or daughter doesn't have to inherit it. Maybe you have the grandson or the granddaughter is inheriting it. That same generation skipping tax is still going to affect them. And they're going to have to take the distribution within that 10-year period. And it may disqualify them from getting any federal aid, state aid, whatever, for them to attend school. So that creates a problem. What's the different way you can do it? Well, the different way is you can skip years. So the way that it's written right now, you could take no distributions for 9 years, and on that 10th year, take the full $1 million. You're paying a massive tax penalty. You've gotten the benefit of your children being able to get state and federal aid for them to go to college or whatever school they need to go to. But now in that 10th year, you're taking the full distribution, and again, depending on your tax bracket and what state you're in, you could be paying half of it in taxes. So you're creating taxable events, and you're forced with the burden of figuring out, do we want to make a lesser tax burden but pay it every year for 10 years, or do we want to have one giant year where we're going to have to pay a massive amount of taxes on it? Either way, you're going to have to pay taxes, and that's really the benefit here. That's what they're trying to do. They don't want you to have this non-tax money for another 40, 50 years. They want to get it in circulation so they can generate taxes off of it. Government revenue, you can think of it in a different way. So you need to, if you've done any kind of estate plan and you have a significant IRA 401k, we need to go back. You need to call your estate planning attorney. You need to go back and review your documents and figure out how is this going to affect you and how are you going to have to change the way that you treat things. it creates a significant departure from how we've done estate planning for, again, the last 20 years. This goes complete polar opposite to what we've been advising clients and what you've been advised by your estate planning attorney if you have a large retirement account. I'm expecting this to go through. It's a minor hiccup. What's holding it up right now? So this is something we need to start planning for now and figuring out how we're going to rework things. Another ulterior motive, and I don't want to get too, I've already been kind of opinionated, so I don't want to get too opinionated, but I've already been opinionated. Part of the back end of this is they're going to start pushing annuities more. And that's a part of this program. If you have a 401k IRA in your workplace, so if your employer is giving you a match for your IRA and 401k, that part of this plan allows for them to give you the option to convert some of your 401k money, say, into an annuity. And they're going to start pushing that. So expect to see, once this passes, some information from your employer, some information from the company that handles your IRA 401k about purchasing an annuity. I expect to see some information coming out where they're going to start pushing that as a vehicle of, hey, the government's giving you this benefit now, so you should look at taking some of this money out and buying this annuity. And if you don't know, an annuity is when you pay an insurance company. It's from an insurance company because they have to calculate your lifetime. What that means is you purchase an annuity, you pay this company, you pay this insurance company. Could be any amount, $100,000, $200,000, $400,000. Depends on your age, depends on your health. You pay them an amount of money. They then guarantee that they're going to send you a check every month for the rest of your life. So you would say, instead of me and having this 401k and trying to monitor the stocks, trying to monitor the stock market, do all this type of stuff, and I don't want to do mutual fund, I don't want to do any of that. You could just go to a company and say, I'm going to give you $200,000, and you're going to guarantee me that you're going to give me $1,000 a month for the rest of my life, and I know I'm always going to have that $1,000 a month. And you can do that. The benefit is they're trying to, essentially, you're making a bet against the insurance company. The insurance company is betting against you that you're going to die early. And that's really what it comes down to in a blunt term. You're trying to get the benefit of, I think I can live another 30 years, and they're going to give me $1,000 a month, and I'll get the benefit of that. They're somewhat hoping that maybe you're only going to live another 10 years, and then they get the benefit of the money that you paid them. Through this, I read some information that they're going to have annuities where you could buy a special annuity so your heirs can still inherit some of the money. If there's, like, what they calculate unused portion of it, your heir can inherit, that unused portion, which generally is not how an annuity works. Generally, you pay them, they guarantee the money, and then that's kind of it. So I think they're going to try to use that to make it seem like you're still wealth building by getting a special annuity where if there's a calculated unused portion, you get the benefit of that. But generally, that's not what an annuity is. So they're removing the ability for you to leave that money for your family. You're giving it to a company. They're going to invest it. And I think in some ways it prevents the responsibility on their part to treat you as a fiduciary in terms of investing your money. So when you have it in a mutual fund, they have to invest it generally in your behalf. You're paying that money to the company for the annuity, so it sort of removes that layer. They just have to guarantee the payment to you. So once you give them that money, once you turn their money over to them, then they get to invest it how they need to invest it or want to invest it. They just have to make sure that they continue to send you your check every month. So it creates, I think, a removal of that responsibility and the liability that the company has, where people are saying, you didn't invest responsibly, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and now they can kind of do what they want. In my eyes, I'm a little skewed. I generally think that this is designed to take away the long-term wealth building that we've been working on for the last 20 years so that your children can have essentially a six-figure retirement account for their retirement. The government wants to stop that. They don't want it. Now, the benefit of that, The only benefit I can see is that they want to generate more taxable events for you and your retirement accounts. They don't want us having this money continuously building for a long, another 30 years with your next generation. They want to have it where this money has to get paid out, put into circulation in the economy, and gets taxed, so they're generating more money for the government. I think that's the motive here. I think that's really what they're trying to do. So it's sad because that was always something that I like to talk about with clients. I always thought that was a fun thing, that your children could potentially get your retirement account and keep that money going and have the benefit of that. Not anymore. So we have to kind of backtrack and need to call some clients and see if there's something maybe we need to do different. And I'll be honest with you, I just read this, so I'm not quite sure what the solution is going to be yet. But we're gonna have to figure it out. So be on the lookout for that. If you want to follow it, just look up Secure Act. It's pretty easy to follow. It's still sitting in the Senate right now. Everyone's kind of waiting for Ted Cruz to figure out, what his plan is. He's not holding up. If it was unanimous, they could have already voted on it. Because it's not unanimous, because he's holding it up, it still is going to come up for vote, but now it has to go through the long process. So they wanted to fast track it. He blocked the fast track. So it's still going to come up and could potentially go through, and then he would be the only person voting against it. They just couldn't get it through. If it was unanimous, it could have gone through in 2 weeks. He held it up, so now they didn't get the fast track in. So it's still going to go through. I mean, he's one of only a couple people that are holding it up at this point. So it's going to go through. So now the responsibility is on us to figure out what different things we need to do now going forward, and kind of figure out what the new game plan is. So it's a sad day. I always thought it was a great vehicle for long-term wealth building for families, and now they're taking that away. So I'll do another video once I hear something else about it, but it's something that I want to monitor, because I think a lot of people have always viewed their 401k and IRA as a great wealth building tool, and it still is for your retirement, just not for the next generation. All right, have a good one.